Well, it's official. RFK is actually now our Health and Human Services Secretary, and his confirmation hearing was fittingly loony.
You have started a group called the Children's Health Defense. They are selling what's called onesies. These are little things, clothing for babies. Are you supportive of this clothing?
I've had nothing to do with leadership.
Are you supportive of these onesies?
Are you supportive of these onesies? Or do you think these other onesies match my eyes better?
I'm supportive of vaccines.
What? Since when? RFK is one of the most, if not the most, prominent leaders of the anti-vax movement in the United States. But when I looked into it, that's actually just the tip of the iceberg. There is a lot more crazy where that came from. Let's start with something recent. In 2024, here's RFK talking with his stunt double, Jordan Peterson. Just kidding, that's Jordan Peterson, that's RFK Jr. See the difference? They're both former drug addicts, so they've got a lot to catch up on, like their favorite conspiracy theories.
They needed a figurehead who could win the election.
And who's they?
I'm not even going to go into, the deep state analysis.
He's not going into those deep state theories, but he is.
Manipulation by the deep state.
He's got an interesting take on politics, to say the least.
The Republican Party is the party of the working class, the working poor, of unions, and the Democratic Party has become the party of billionaires. Donald Trump chased the billionaires out of the Republican Party.
Oh yeah, look what a good job he did. No more billionaires, chase them all away. Bye-bye, billionaires. And the entire interview is like this. It's this upside-down, topsy-turvy, alternate reality these two inhabit.
Is it fair to say, then, that you found the Democrats under Trump
now the party of war?
Oh, right, but Trump and his buddy Putin are all just
standing for peace. Peace and
peace.
Peace.
Yeah, nothing brings peace to the world like invading other countries and standing with the people who do it. But it turns out RFK shares another passion with Trump. They both hate windmills.
If 21 offshore wind farms being built, they're killing the whale. They've built these and they are destroying the whale populations, and everybody knows it.
Do they, though? I mean, wind turbines are above the water, and whales, generally speaking, are found under the water. I'm pretty sure about that, but I'm no expert, so I just fact-checked this, and according to all the sources I could find, the biggest harm to whales comes from the fishing industry, and there is zero evidence of harm by offshore windmills. But unlike Trump, there's only a certain type of windmill that RFK hates.
Nobody would build a wind farm, an offshore wind. I'm very much in favor of onshore wind. I built onshore wind. My brother's in that business.
Well, if your brother's in that business, that changes everything. Funny how RFK really likes those windmills, but the ones that compete with his brother's business, well, they're just plain evil.
Minke whales, humpback whales, and other large whale species, and they're being exterminated. And everybody's pretending it's not the wind farms, but there's no other explanation.
Except for the overfishing explanation, which explains it. And just to be clear, declining whale populations is a problem, and we absolutely should do something about it, something that helps the whales, not just helps RFK's brother's business. But enough about whales. He's also very concerned about frogs.
Well, now the second most used chemical in this country, a pesticide in this country, is atrazine. It's banned in Europe, banned all over the world, but we use it here. It's in 63% of our drinking water.
Can you guess where he's going with this? Write your guess in the comments right now before we keep going. No cheating.
There's a famous African-American scientist named Tyler Hayes. He did a famous experiment that anybody can look up on the internet.
Yes, anybody can download and read this study, which experimented on, 40 African clawed frogs. Please, continue explaining this to us.
He put 70 African water frogs in an aquarium.
Close enough.
He put atrazine in the water of that aquarium that was less than EPA's level.
Sure, he got the species and the number of frogs wrong, but the atrazine levels were 2.5 parts per million, which is lower than the EPA's threshold of 3. So one thing right so far.
60 of those frogs became sterile. They're all male frogs.
That might be a slight exaggeration out of the 40 frogs.
60 became sterile.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right. Let's look it up. Let's see. The total number of frogs who became sterile was 0.
10% of those frogs turned female.
Yep, that's where he's going with this, right into Alex Jones territory.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
So it changed their sex.
Yeah, that's more accurate than what Alex said. Not that being less wrong than Alex Jones is a very high bar, but yes, 10% of 40 is 4. Somehow, after mixing up all the other numbers, he got that right. 4 frogs in this study did change sex. Amphibians are capable of doing that, by the way. No mention at all of them turning gay anywhere in this study, but it's still really funny when Alex says it, especially when someone on YouTube makes a remix.
Turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Turn the friggin' frogs gay. Serious crap. Gay. Frogs friggin' frogs. It's not funny.
It's not funny, Alex. It's hilarious. But okay, what's the actual science here? What RFK just said about the study is kind of accurate. 4 of the frogs did become female, and the other 36, on average, had a statistically significant drop in testosterone levels and sperm production. In other words, atrazine fucks with amphibians' ability to fuck, and that's not good for the environment or for the frog's sex life. He's right to call for stricter regulations of this chemical, and it's adorable that he thinks that Trump and his doji would actually do that. But as usual, he takes that great idea and drives it right off a real big cliff. Here he is in another Jordan Peterson interview from the same year.
I think a lot of the problems we see in kids, and particularly boys, including a lot of the sexual dysphoria that we're seeing, that these kids, there's atrazine throughout our water supply.
Gee, could this chemical in the water be turning our kids trans? He innocently asks the man who's made a career out of bashing trans kids, just asking questions.
The first thing you want to do is test it in a mammalian model and then a human model. Those tests were never done, so we don't know what impact it's having on our children, if any.
All right, dude. First, those studies were never done because it's kind of unethical to poison kids in the name of science. But what you can do is take a look at populations. Take an area that does have atrazine in the water and compare the population to an area that doesn't. So remember what RFK just said.
It's banned in Europe. Banned all over the world, but we use it here.
Perfect. Let's compare America and Europe. If this chemical really is turning people trans, we should have way more trans people here in America than they do over there in Europe, right? So what countries have the highest trans population in the world? Oh, look, it's Germany and Sweden. So
if it's doing that to frogs, it could. There's a lot of other evidence that it's doing it to human beings as well.
And after saying he has lots of evidence, he goes on to present no evidence and change the subject.
I'm happy to talk about that later.
And when reporters asked him about this later, he proceeded to still not show any evidence. And by the way, the author of this study has responded to RFK, saying there are no data to really make that link. That's speculation. In other words, what RFK said about atrazine is
friggin' frog crap.
I couldn't resist. Okay, enough about Jordan Peterson and frogs, because honestly, I just can't take any more of this interview. The last straw was when he started spouting straight-up Russian propaganda.
Putin has said he's got more weapons than we. He's got the biggest nuclear power in the world. He has 1,200 more nuclear warheads than we do, and they're better than ours. And his warfare system is a generation ahead of ours, as they've shown in Ukraine. They can shoot down almost anything that we send against them.
Rah, rah, Russia. What, is the Daily Wire short for Daily Wire the money from Russia and we'll say whatever Daddy Putin wants? And remember, all this is from 2024 when RFK was a presidential candidate. So this is him filtered. But if you go back a few years, here he is on a podcast called Truth. Fittingly, truth is in quotes, where he drops truth nuggets like this one.
Vaccinated children are much less healthy than unvaccinated children.
Yeah, remember when he said he was supportive of vaccines? He lied. He's not just an anti-vaxxer, he's an anti-vax evangelist.
You talk to people even if they don't want to hear it.
Amen! You go out and spread the good word to the people who don't want to hear it. If you see a pregnant woman, you tell her not to get that baby vaccinated.
When you see a mom on the street who's pregnant, hand her what we make cards for people.
You hand her that card even if she doesn't want to take it.
When you see an injured child.
Yes, if you see a child with any symptoms at all.
Food allergies, ear infections, autism, diabetes, arthritis, epilepsy, Crohn's disease, irritated bowel syndrome.
Any symptoms of anything, really. You march right up to that mom and you tell her, It was her fault.
Ask the mother if they get a vaccine.
I mean, who wouldn't be receptive to that? What, your child has an ear infection? It must be because you injected your child with poison. She'll thank you for that helpful tip, trust me.
Put them up on your pediatrician's office. Put them on group bulletin boards and become a messenger.
Hallelujah! You know, if I didn't know better, I'd say it sounds like he's weaponizing misinformation by putting it into a narrative.
What we're doing is we're weaponizing information. We're taking the science, we're putting it into a narrative.
Good thing I know better. But why, you might ask, is he doing all of this? Well, it turns out it's for very personal reasons.
Well, I didn't realize for many years that my children's food allergies came from the vaccines.
And there it is. His children, for their whole lives, have had to deal with serious food allergies, which either didn't manifest or he just didn't notice until after they'd gotten some vaccines. And since we all know that correlation equals causation, that right there is rock solid proof.
What would I do if I could go back in time and I could avoid giving my children the vaccines that I gave them? I would do anything for that.
You know, I wish that too, because then you could go back and see once and for all that the allergies were not caused by the vaccines. And you could stop beating yourself up over it. It's not your fault, dude. And you could move on with your life and let the rest of us move on with our lives too. But unfortunately, no, we're probably stuck with him, and it's going to be a rough 4 years, which actually would make a great slogan on a t-shirt or even a onesie.
Are you supportive of this?
Why, yes! Yes, I am supportive of this onesie.
Gay friggin' frogs! Frogs! Friggin' frog crap! Won't you fight the frogs? It's not funny! I'm gonna say it real slow for you.